Okay, I'll call our regular business meeting to order. Can someone certify the closed meeting, please?
Yes, I move that this council certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we can vote. Okay, the motion passes 5-0. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any announcements?
Yes, I have one about the Commissioners in Cans Food Drive. Charlottesville Commissioner of the Revenue Todd Divers would like to announce that his office will once again be participating in the annual Commissioners in Cans Food and Fun Drive through the month of August. The Commissioners in Cans Food and Fun Drive, an annual partnership between the Commissioners of the Revenue Association of Virginia and the Virginia Federation of Food Banks, will span statewide once again throughout the month of August. Commissioners of the Revenue across the Commonwealth will take on the fight against food insecurity. Now in its sixth year, the Commissioners in Cans Food and Fun Drive is a month-long competition for Commissioners of Revenue offices to join together to raise foods and funds for their local food banks throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Offices compete to collect the most food and funds during a time of the year when resources are in short supply and the need remains great. You can donate at a drop-off location in the Treasurer's Lobby, which is on the first floor of City Hall, or outside the Commissioner of the Revenue's window, first floor of City Hall, or the hallway outside Council Chambers in the second floor of City Hall. You can also give online at www.charlottesville.gov/COR and look for the link to donate. Every $1 donated helps provide enough food for 4 meals.
Great. Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody to mark your calendars for September 28th, which is Loop de Ville. The Urbana Trails Foundation is putting together a walk, bike, or run the entire trail system around the city. It's an all-day event that's family-friendly with a party afterwards, meeting in the morning, starting at the Urbana River Company. So make sure you sign up. It's free to sign up, but you do need to register in advance. loopdeville.org.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we have any proclamations or recognitions? I don't think we have any. No? Okay. We're now at the time for community matters. There are 7 registered speakers, so that leaves slots for 9 speakers on community matters after the 7 pre-registered speakers come up. So each speaker will have 3 minutes, and we'll now have the first speaker signed up, Nicholas Cole.
Hey, good afternoon, City Council. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Nick Coe. I live on 107 First Street South. I'm a former naval officer, Naval Academy graduate, and I represent Veterans for All Voters. Thank you for working on bringing ranked choice voting to the city and for the reading later today to ultimately vote on implementing ranked choice voting in the city. Thomas Jefferson said, "The will of the people is the only legitimate foundation of any government," and today you're taking the significant step towards realizing that ideal of forming a more perfect union right here in Charlottesville. Ranked choice voting ensures the will of the majority is more accurately represented. It amplifies every voter's voice, improves representation, and allows citizens to vote their conscience without fear of wasting their vote. It's been incredible watching ranked choice voting be implemented across the nation as the fastest growing nonpartisan reform. Statewide, we've seen it statewide in Maine, Alaska, and countless cities across the country. Your decision empowers citizens to shape Charlottesville's future, encouraging more inclusive campaigns and governance that reflects our community's diverse needs. As a veteran who's served our nation, I'm grateful for your leadership. But you're not alone. Veterans for All Voters and other community organizations stands ready to support you with education and outreach. We're committed to working alongside you, conducting workshops, and engaging with community groups to ensure a smooth transition. We can make Charlottesville a model for other cities in our ongoing quest to perfect our democracy. This is indeed a step in the right direction, moving us closer to that more perfect union that our founding fathers envisioned. Thank you so much for your help and for this significant step towards a more representative democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Cole, and thank you for your service to the country, sir. The next speaker is Ms. Hudson, Sally.
Thank you, Mayor Wade and councilors. On behalf of Ranked Choice Virginia and more than 250 city residents who have signed a petition supporting this measure, I'm here to convey my support for moving forward with Ranked Choice adoption. I have also been charged with carrying the support of the League of Women Voters, who very much wanted to be here this evening but was unable to join. They also have a long history of supporting a stronger democracy in this community. I would add only to the wonderful things that have already been said that Charlottesville has a long history of being proud to be a cradle of democracy. And there's a long history of ranked choice voting activism in this community. Ranked choice voting started in Charlottesville more than 20 years ago when UVA students first adopted ranked choice for their student council elections. And while that may not sound like a very big deal, roughly 5,000 students cast their ballots for student council every year on grounds, which is almost as many people who vote in a Charlottesville City Council primary. So they really led the charge on spearheading ranked choice at scale. We also have a debt of gratitude to pay to members of the Democratic Party of Charlottesville who spearheaded using instant runoff voting in firehouse primaries now more than a decade ago. And so many of your city staff and nonpartisan election officials have put in so much work to make this happen. I want to say an extra thank you to our registrar, Taylor Yole, and also to Jim Nix, who couldn't be here today, but has put in a lot of sweat into making this happen. I know that all of you have also given this tremendous consideration. We appreciate all of your thoughtfulness to all of the details, and we stand ready to help you make sure that all of the rest of our voters understand this system come next year. So thank you very much for taking this on.
Thank you, Sally. The next speaker is Frank Betchter. Hope I pronounced your last name correctly.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council. I have three things I want to say. One is to strongly support ranked choice voting. So I'm very glad that's happening today, and thank you for taking it up. The second thing is just a follow-up to something I did on Zoom 3 years ago or so with council, just a simple thing about all the half-streets in Charlottesville. There are only a few, I think there are 5. I made a little map showing where the half-streets are, and I made printouts, and I could just hand them to you perhaps, but I don't want to spend any time on that. The idea that I proposed was maybe we could change the names. The city might want, the people on those streets might want to change the names of those streets, and if they did, it might be because computer systems and address systems for things you buy, including healthcare.gov, those kinds of things have trouble with the half-street address. And my half-street, 6 1/2 Street, happens to be named honorary Winneba Way, which the council, I think, voted on 4 years ago. But if you send a postcard to Winneba Way, it won't get there. So an honorary name doesn't matter. An address, there can only be one street name. And so I thought it would be a neat idea to have Winneba Way be the name of my street, and perhaps similar names that could be voted on in all kinds of different ways, or a simple way by street members or by the community, or can be advertised. That might be taken on. So I have these maps, and I can hand them out just to show you later. So, and I put my email address on it just because there was no follow-up. Maybe there was a follow-up, but I didn't hear about it, and I don't attend these meetings well enough. But I would love to hear more about that possibility and what steps I might take to pursue it. The last thing I want to say is to commend the Charlottesville Parks and Recreation for their really impressive and outreach to the community about vision for the future for parks and for the parks in Charlottesville. And in particular, they asked for input on Court Square, Market Street, Tonsler, and Washington Parks. I want to address Court Square and Market Street parks, about which much has been said. I want to suggest, just vocally, so it would be on record for the town to consider, that Market Street and Court Street parks ideally can be living monuments. I say this in contrast to the idea of putting another statue up there, perhaps a statue made of the previous statues. I would like to say that that's an interesting creative idea, but maybe not a good idea. It could be a lightning rod for divisiveness in the future. I can see that at least. But plants, people, partnerships between people and community businesses and stuff, That, I think, could be a living monument, and it could be said of the park. So what's the monument? Oh, the park is all the people that are there and all the activities that are there. I think we should pursue that.
Thank you very much. And yes, if you can give Sam or Keena the maps. Thank you. The next speaker is Joel Kienzschel.
I'll save you on that.
Thank you.
Actually, that's my wife. She's not here, but we've combined forces. Eddie Mendes is going to speak to you all a little bit later about the Willoughby Place apartments. So if I may just hand up some handouts, and then I'd like to give my time to Eddie, which I think he's like the seventh speaker, if that's okay.
Well, it'll still be three.
You'll get it either way.
He'll just
2
talk
minutes.
quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you don't have any
No, I
statement?
don't.
Okay.
I think he'll summarize in a better way.
Catherine?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Wade and councilors. I first just want to take a quick second to thank you for your work on the Carlton Mobile Home Park and coming together so quickly. It's really great to hear Charlottesville's name in a podcast as a national leader, and especially around an issue like affordable housing. I'm just here to
Thank you.
lend my support to ranked choice voting. I don't want to feel like I need to have a PhD in game theory to cast the best vote possible when I come to vote for city council. I'd like to just be able to give you a straightforward list. Here are the people I want to vote for. Here's who I most want. Here's who I next most want. And have that move forward to represent my Democratic vote. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is, I don't see Terrence here, I just want to make sure. Okay. Is Eddie. Eddie.
I want to apologize first off, I'm not a very good public speaker, so please bear with me.
Fine.
Good evening, my name is Eddie Mendez and I live in the Willoughby subdivision. I'm here to speak to you about the new zoning code that's being implemented. The Willoughby subdivision has a singular point of entry exit onto 5th Street extended for 240 plus homes. The Willoughby Place Apartments development attempts to bring 84 units in phase 1 and potentially 150 plus units in phase 2 with entry/exit onto Harris Road at the front of Willoughby. The Harris Road 5th Street intersection is beyond its design capacity as evidenced by the exceptional number of accidents per Charlottesville Police Department statistics. These almost bi-weekly accidents cause the existing 240 residents to be locked in the subdivision for at least an hour until first responders can clear the intersection, not to mention the injuries and deaths suffered as a result of these accidents. Willoughby Place Apartments has submitted a plan pursuant to the RC density for which the relevant parcels are zoned, the highest category of density available for residential use. Because this level of density is now available by right, the city has not given the project the level of scrutiny that it would have prior to the zoning rewrite. As a result, the issues with access easements, utility easements, as well as whether the intersection of 5th and Harris can handle the increased traffic without compromising Willoughby residents' safety even further are overlooked. Zoning in Virginia is codified under Article 7, Section 15.2-2280. 15.2-2283, purpose of zoning ordinances, specifically says, shall be for the general purpose of promoting the health, safety, or general welfare of the public and of further accomplishing the objectives of 15.2-2200. To these ends, such ordinances shall be designed to give reasonable consideration to each of the following purposes where applicable. Purpose 2, to reduce or prevent congestion in the public streets. Purpose 6, to protect against one or more of the following: overcrowding of land, undue density of population in relation to the community facilities existing or available, obstruction of light and air, danger and congestion in travel and transportation, or loss of life, health, or property from fire, flood, impounding structure failure. I think they meant impending structure failure, panic or other dangers. If the city does not have adequate or experienced resources and revised policies and procedures to evaluate developer submissions underneath the new zoning code, it needs to put these in place before any submissions are evaluated. especially as it relates to transportation impacts on existing streets. If this isn't done at a minimum, Willoughby residents will be crash test dummies for a poorly implemented zoning rewrite, and the city may find itself legally liable for betraying the purpose of zoning and promoting the health, safety, or general welfare of the public.
Thank you. We have the statement, and
And
Thank
I
you.
attached a letter we spoke to last week in front of the the Planning Commission,
Thank you.
and we also provided that to NDS. Thank you.
thank you. We have opportunities for 10 speakers now. Anyone would like to speak? That's please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Good evening, City Council.
Good evening.
My name is Fritz Knabe. I'm a resident of Edgewood Lane in the city. And I would like to say that I'm really excited that the council is considering ranked choice voting. I think in today's divided and very divisive political situation, ranked choice voting is a wonderful opportunity for people to cast their votes in a way that best aligns with their own beliefs and what they would like to accomplish with their vote. I really hope that Charlottesville goes forward with this and becomes a model for other cities and municipalities around the country. I think the adoption of ranked choice voting is something that can really help improve our democracy, and so I strongly support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Cindy. Hey.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm Cindy Cartwright, 1404 East Market Street, and I'm here to support ranked choice voting. Before my career change this year, I taught for 25 years, and the last 4 years I taught, we used ranked choice voting when things had to be decided. And I feel if fifth graders and sixth graders can do it and embrace it, then our Charlottesville community can as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to? Yes, ma'am.
Sure, I live on 800 Elliott Avenue in Belmont, and I too am supporting ranked choice voting because it allows voters to make meaningful choices, encouraging candidates themselves to build broad coalitions and earn support from a wide range of voters, which in the bigger picture, it's not always contentious for council, but I could use less toxic campaigns personally, so that's a great outcome of ranked choice voting. And it has a proven record of diversifying the campaign pool, which I think also improves our democratic process. So it's used in many cities like Santa Fe and Oakland and New York City. And like Catherine mentioned, you don't need a statistics or gaming degree to do ranked choice voting. Fifth graders can do it. We all can do it. It's pretty easy. I think it's a great solution for Charlottesville and our upcoming city council elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to? Yes. Yes, Don.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I too come in support of ranked choice voting and want to publicly thank former Delegate Hudson for all the work that she put in getting us to this point with it. The biggest component of it just makes good common sense. In a race of three, you should be able to rate them, rank them in whatever order that you see fit. Just please, let's not fumble this like the Olympics did with the bronze medal. We don't need that type of controversy. I also want to thank the individual who spoke about the parks. I agree with him. We need to let those parks heal. Let's not be in such a rush to do anything with them for a while. They've been under toxicity for some 100 years. So let's give them an opportunity to heal before we rush to to do anything with them. And finally, I still stand in opposition of the proposed raise of some 88.89%. I agree with former Mayor Snook. If you take small bites of it till you get to that point, it makes more sense to me, especially when I look outside. And so many of the citizens that you represent are laid out there homeless. You need to look at helping those folks before you consider not helping yourselves, of course, but helping future councils. Please bear in mind, this is supposed to be a part-time job. If we want to move that or change that to bear and reflect the salary increase, that's a discussion that can be had. But please consider the citizens that elected you and that put you in the office before considering self first. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, thank you. There'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Did you? Yep.
I wanted to make a quick announcement. I mentioned this before, but thank you for reminding me. The park survey is open until this Sunday, so you still have time to fill it out. There's one general survey for the entire park system, and then there's 4 smaller ones for individual parks: Tonsler, Market Street, Court Square, and Washington Park, all have their own site-specific surveys. So super easy, super fast. If you've got 10 minutes, you'll be able to knock out all 4 and have input into our park system for the next 10 years. Thanks. The website is like a long URL, so just Google like Charlottesville Park Survey.
Yeah. Thank you. That was the final part of public matters or community matters. Ms. Thomas, can you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda number 3, minutes, June 3rd, regular meeting, June 17th, regular meeting, July 1st, regular meeting. 4, resolution to appropriate EPA Clean School Bus Program rebates, $420,000, second reading. 5, resolution to appropriate $7,120,650 from the United States Department of Transportation, Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, Natural Gas Distribution Infrastructure and Safety Modernization Grant Program. Second reading. 6, resolution to appropriate funding to the parking fund, $1,400,000. Second reading. 7, resolution for approval of easement additions for the bypass fire station. 8, resolution to appropriate Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act grant, $452,704, one of 2 readings.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, can we vote? Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Before we move on, we made some appointments to various boards and commissions during the closed session, and Vice Mayor Pinkston will read those off.
All right, for Board of Architectural Review, Catherine Snyder Tapani. For the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund Committee, Jamala Hamilton. For the Charlottesville Albemarle Airport Commission, Benjamin Chambers. For the Community Policy and Management Team, Rebecca Schmidt. For the Human Rights Commission, Dawn Lawson, Jason Melendez, and Elizabeth Stark. For the Jefferson Area United Transportation Board of Directors, now called JAUNT, Benjamin Chambers. For the Jefferson Madison Regional Library Board, Siri Russell. To the Sister Cities Commission, Murray Susan. The Social Services Advisory Board, Maria Rinson and Rebecca Schmidt. For the Youth Council, Joyce Brown, Lucia Clarence, Dylan Grist, Eshin Paniker, and then we have another person that we'll appoint in October.
Right.
Yep.
I would move approval of that list.
Thank you. Can we please vote?
Or second.
Yeah, seconded.
Oh,
Do we have a second?
Second?
Second.
yeah. I thought that you were seconding it, so.
Ms. Ware?
Thank you. Let's see.
That's me.
City manager.
We are now city manager's report.
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Mr. Free stepped outside to speak to one of our speakers, so I'll cover his item. But I'm going to defer to Deputy Marshall and have her go first.
Thank you so much for Mayor, City Council, and the public that has joined us both virtually and in person. I am really excited to share from the Office of Social Equity that the city now has its first youth anti-bullying policy that will cover any city-led or run service, activity, program, or facility. And this was a collaborative effort between our departments who serve our youth, Parks and Recreation, Department of Human Services, as well as our regional libraries joined in. And it's really exciting because this is the first policy we've created that will ensure that any bullying based on a youth's actual or perceived race, color, ethnicity, religion, national origin, sex, age, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, intellectual ability, or even family status and family responsibilities will be prohibited. The policy also includes a youth code of conduct and a way to report incidents of bullying and retaliation. Our teams are all extremely thankful for Mr. Sanders' prompt consideration of the request and his dedication to making sure that everyone can safely participate in our youth-focused programs, activities, services, and facilities. If anyone would like to see that policy, it is located right now on the city manager's page and will later be on several pages. But this is a first, and I'm really excited and thankful.
Also, Deputy Freeze was going to share, just in general, a public update in regards to the Stribling Sidewalk project. It's a long debated item. There's been a series of community meetings that have led to the neighborhood has identified a specific option that we're going to move forward with that has been priced, and we are now looking to determine when we can get started. But the Public Works team will come before council in a work session in the next 30 days, producing an update on infrastructure projects, and the Stribling Sidewalk will be included in that report. So that'll give you something to look forward to. And then just a couple of items that I wanted to touch on. Ravenna authorities recently put out a notice of upcoming waste events, but one of the big actions that we took, we don't get much excitement on the Ravenna boards, but one of the more recent actions was that we renamed the Ivy Material Utilization Center the Ivy Solid Waste and Recycling Center, so people would know exactly what it does, because who knows what material utilization really is. So we made that crystal clear and pointed out in the commentary on that is that recycling speaks to a value. That's really what I think what this community would like to do in most of its work. And then there's a host of recycling and disposal events that are coming up in September and October. If you check the Ravenna site, you'll see when you'll be able to take items that you need to discard to the facility. And lastly, the Office of Community Solutions released the Notice of Funding Availability for housing-related activities. I'm just highlighting this item because this is the opportunity for the city to continue to demonstrate its support for housing development, affordable housing development, I should say. We will continue to fund the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund, our housing operations and program support, and the expenditure of our CDBG and home entitlement funds. So this information is going to be posted on the website and make sure that's available for people to see. And then we have a non-funding round where we'll also in November be looking for any developer in this area that's looking to produce housing to let us know what they're thinking about doing so that we can stay on top of what production is on its way, and we can continue to identify where there may be gaps and where there may be opportunities for the city to partner. So that is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now on to the action items, and the first item for public hearing is a public hearing on program FY 23-24 consolidated annual performance and evaluation for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership, and establish council priorities for program 25-26. This is the first of two readings.
Yes. Good evening, councilors.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Wade, Ms. Thomas, members of the public. My name is Anthony Warren. I'm with the city's Office of Community Solutions, here to provide you with an update on the draft CAPER report that is now available for public review and comment. It's typically a 15-day public comment period, and that is currently now open. By way of background, for people who are a little bit newer to the CAPER process, it's only my second time doing this. The CAPER is a HUD-mandated annual assessment of our progress towards goals that we set for ourselves in a 5-year strategic plan, and then how we're measuring our annual progress towards those goals. And I'm pleased to say that we are making great progress. We've had pretty substantial accomplishments this past year that the city can be proud of. As we kind of go through these, we can try to see this as an opportunity to reflect on the strategies we're utilizing to get to the goals that we've outlined for ourselves, and to make any midpoint corrections or changes. We'll talk at the end. I'll mention a couple lessons learned. So we have a number of programs that we have successfully completed, and we have a number of programs that are still ongoing. The programs that are ongoing typically tend to relate to housing, rehabilitation, and construction. Those have a much longer timeline. So even though the work is being done, we don't have the accomplishments data for that yet. But through CDBG, Council asked us to look into economic development and micro-entrepreneur assistance. We've completed 2 successful programs there. Investment into the New Hill Development Corporation's Beacon Commercial Kitchen Project. That has been completed, and they are well on their way towards a opening. We visited that with some members of the HUD Virginia senior leadership team back in July, and they were very pleased to see kind of the work that's ongoing here in the town. We also completed this CIC project where they supported 19 small business entrepreneurs, 13 of them through financially supported tuitions for their entrepreneur workshop. One of those graduates went on to their more intensive financial management program. They received supported subsidized tuition for that. And then 6 small micro business growth grants through that program. We invested in Literacy Volunteers of Charlottesville, Albemarle, and they more than surpassed their goals of providing emergent literacy development, work-based tutoring for adult residents of the city to either maintain or obtain new employment opportunities. We had some pretty great results with our public facilities and infrastructure programs. We invested in Parks and Rec, an ADA enhancements program at Washington Park at the very beginning. That was one of my first programs here. That went off very well. We completed a 2022 originated project with Parks and Recreation to complete the city's newest trail bridge at Jordan Park. That was relatively recent and very great improvement to kind of a trail that was a bunch of rocks thrown across a creek for about 2 generations. So we're very excited about that. We recently completed, Public Works recently completed a great job at Johnson Elementary, removing trip hazards and other ADA accessibility issues and constructing a new ADA compliant entryway from the parking lot, accessible parking spaces. And the school is very happy about that, the school community. They're going to be celebrating that on September 24th at a school-wide picnic. I believe the hours are from 5 to 7 p.m. We invested in the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank commercial cold storage project. And they have more than surpassed their goals. They recently reported that they are, even though they lost the use of their coolers for part of July, by the end of July, the new cooler unit helped them put out 21,000 more pounds of fresh produce to their Food Network partners than in July of 2023. So we're very excited about that. Core priority is supporting affordable housing programs through our investment in the Albemarle Home Improvement Program projects. They completed 2 substantial critical home rehabilitations for income-eligible homeowners. Excuse me. And those people have benefited from foundation reconstruction work to extensive energy efficiency-related improvements. We also supported LEAP in completing 6 projects for energy efficiency upgrades, try to help income-eligible homeowners get to participation in a Dominion Energy solar panel installation program. On our affordable housing, we have 4 programs within the home program. Each one of those is under development, it's ongoing. Those take a longer time. We have an affordable rental investment with the Community Supportive Housing to renovate up to 65 units that they own. Piedmont Housing Alliance is working on constructing new units at 1025 Park Street. LEAP has a program as well from 2022 that we're still working on. Anyway, so a lot of great things going on. Lessons learned, we're seeking to leverage our funds where we can, and challenges, we still need to find investment and opportunities in council outlined priorities for mental health and childcare, but we are working with Ready Kids on a program that we hope to bring before you shortly. The task force is always looking to benefit from new volunteers, so I'd like to put that out there. If people are interested in volunteering on the task force, we always have
We have 4
many
openings,
seats.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So we can use some.
Yeah, and then seeking new partnerships with new community organizations. The Blue Ridge Area Food Bank project was a new partnership for our program. So thank you very much. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
So there's, yeah, thank you for that. It's quite a list of things that y'all have been able to do. Really grateful. So we've got here a resolution to approve the report, and then a resolution to establish council priorities for next year,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
typically the process, I guess.
Okay, so there's 2 separate, and this will presumably.
And a public hearing.
In the public hearing.
So I want to get comments from council first before we open it up. Any of? If not, I will open up the public hearing for this topic. Anyone like to speak on it? If not, I will close the public hearing, and we will, this is the first of the readings, but we're going to wait to take the a motion on the public hearing, on the priorities as well, Sam, or?
Yeah, you would carry both items forward unless you
Okay.
have some discussion or changes you might want to consider.
Any priorities or anything we want to discuss before we finalize it at the next meeting?
No.
Okay.
So to the consent agenda, or does it have to be on the agenda proper?
It can be consent.
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine with being on the consent agenda. I think that you all doing a lot of work, and thank you so much. So, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
The next item we have on, I guess all of those will be for next week. We're now for the ordinance for council salaries, increase in salaries.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Eden Ratliff. I'm the Deputy City Manager for Administration. This is a follow-up from our meeting 2 weeks ago. This is a second reading for an ordinance enabling an increase in council and mayor salaries effective July 1 of 2026. It was specifically requested by the City Council that this be available for a second reading tonight, not on the consent agenda. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have. As a brief reminder, or for those who are just tuning in, current councilor salaries are $18,000 per year, and the mayor at $20,000 per year. The proposed increase by the ordinance in front of council is for councilors to make $34,000 a year, and the mayor at $37,000 per year. The first adjustment since 1996.
So we had the public hearing last time. We opted not to put it on the consent agenda this time, just to see if there's any more discussion on this. I think we stated last time our positions. I was in support of it. I just think this will give the opportunity for others that might be on the fence financially, whether they would run or not, maybe to do it because of just a little bit more income to help, maybe if they have to miss some time from work or babysitting or what have you. So I'm in support of it, so we can have some additional discussion on it.
One question that I had that was raised by a number of people last time deals with the issue of salaries for people on boards and commissions. I wonder if we could get some public discussion of that, just so people understand, number one, we are not ignoring the requests and the questions that were put to us last time. And number two, to give at least some answer as to why we are not able to do what folks want us to do. Is that something that you could help with, or maybe Mr. Hubbard, or?
Sure, I can certainly speak to that. So there is research that has been done and more that is needed as it relates to the City Council providing compensation to those that serves on our various boards, committees, and commissions. I've received direction from the City Manager to look into this and bring this issue to the City Council, which we plan to do. Of course, there's a lot that goes into that. There's a larger project involving boards and commissions and committees that's happening in the background that I think this would complement very nicely. And we would love to bring that to the City Council for kind of your thoughts, the public's feedback, and recommendations thereof.
Bless you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready to make the motion, unless someone else wants to. I don't have any further commentary from last week.
I think something that might be useful to add as a way to look at this jump is that, like a lot of other things that the city's been doing in the last couple of years, is addressing things that hadn't been touched in a long time that should have been. So it might feel like a big jump all at once, but it is because it hasn't been addressed in, 30 years? 20 years? A long time.
Nearly 30 years.
Almost 30. And so, yes, it might feel like a big step to take, but that's because it hadn't been cared for in the intervening 30 years. It adjusts to the inflation raise. What $18,000 would have been today is $34,000 set in 1998. So that's the adjustment, which I know we went over last time, but just to re-clarify. And it wouldn't go into effect until July of 2026.
I would just note that if you look at the math going back to the last time we changed salaries, not the last time we were enabled by the General Assembly to pay more than we do, the last time we changed it, it works out to about an 8.7% year over year increase. And I said last time, I'll say again, at a time when we have been raising every tax that we can raise in order to raise whatever funds we can raise for whatever purposes we have, it seems to me that sends a very unwelcome message to people, and I don't think it's a wise idea. But then, as I said, I'm not on the ballot this next time anyway, so I'm not running again. So.
And I think that's actually an interesting choice of words, unwelcome, when from our perspective, it would be more welcoming for more people to be able to join this board and this body because it expands the, financial access some people would have to do something like this.
Yeah, and then there are 50,000 people who will not benefit from that.
Well, if there's leadership that expands, and have their more voices heard, they could benefit in that way.
Yes, so I'm going to make this motion. I move to pass this ordinance and increase the salaries of City Council and of the mayor effective July 1, 2026.
Second.
Further discussion? If not, can we take a vote? Motion passes 4-1. Thank you all very much for discussion, and staff for doing the research on this. We look forward to discussion on the boards and commission. The next item on the agenda is the ordinance resolution for ranked choice voting, and are you going to introduce it?
I absolutely can. Good evening again. So we are here to discuss ranked choice voting. I'm joined here by Taylor Yowell, who is a fan favorite here in front of the City Council, as well as our Deputy City Manager, Rob Hubbard, and we're going to talk about ranked choice voting. So we do have a presentation, which I think Remy is pulling up for us. So we have 3 goals here for tonight. One, we're going to start off by talking about the legal authority, which will be all Rob, to implement ranked choice voting. And then secondly, we're going to go over how ranked choice voting works. And then third is the implementation of ranked choice voting. I'll start off by saying our goal is not to make sure that everyone who is maybe new to ranked choice voting leave here as an expert. Ranked choice voting is complicated for those who maybe haven't dealt with it. If you've studied it or maybe you're an advocate of it, it gets simpler as more time is spent kind of with the subject, but we're going to introduce it and talk about what that implementation period looks like in terms of preparing the public over the next months leading up to June of 2025. So first we'll start with the legal authority to implement. So Rob?
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Next slide, Remy.
And I just have a few points to make from a legal perspective. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rob Hubbard. I'm the Deputy City Attorney. He did say Deputy City Manager. I would say.
I heard
that. So my piece really quick.
Mr. Hubbard, if you'd speak into the mic, it helps the people at home.
So my piece real quick, the authority comes from the City Code, the General Assembly passed 24.2, 673.1, I'm sorry. And that statute defines ranked choice voting. It also authorizes localities to implement ranked choice voting in city council elections as well as board of supervisor elections. As you can see from the next slide, you can put the next slide up. The statute defines ranked choice voting as a method of casting and tabulating votes in which voters rank candidates in order of preference. The tabulation proceeds in rounds such that in each round, either a candidate or candidates are elected or the last place candidate is defeated. The votes for voters' next ranked candidates are transferred from elected or defeated candidates, and then tabulation ends when the number of candidates elected equals the number of offices to be filled. A couple of extra notes or bullets to add to that. So the statute's authorized for essentially 10 years. You can see it expires in July 1st, 2031. This gives 10 years for localities to adopt ranked choice voting. If it becomes popular, if people like it, then the General Assembly can extend that authority at that time. If not, if people don't take on to it, then ranked choice voting will go away. I would also add that Charlottesville would become the second locality in Virginia to adopt ranked choice voting. Arlington County has adopted ranked choice voting for county board primary elections, and they're looking to do that going forward. And then lastly, this adoption would be only for the June 25th primary election. So if voters and council decided they wanted to use this method going forward, they would have to pass another ordinance that would then extend ranked choice voting to the November election.
Thank you very much, Rob. And Taylor, welcome. So for our next, our step here in our presentation, we're going to show a short video and then followed by discussion on how ranked choice voting actually works. I don't think I have to do anything. I think Remy's going to play it for us.
The suspense is building.
We built the suspense in on purpose. I hope you feel it.
Very intentional.
Is used when electing multiple representatives at once to offices like city council, school board, or legislature. In elections of this type, candidates are elected in relation to their level of support to produce proportional representation. Proportional ranked choice voting, also known as single transferable vote, is used when electing multiple representatives at once to offices like city council, school board, or legislature. In elections of this type, candidates are elected in relation to their level of support to produce proportional representation. Voters rank their ballots in order of preference. To be elected, candidates must meet a vote threshold. The threshold is determined by the number of seats to be elected. For example, we can use proportional representation if we are planning a party and want to select which 3 cookie types to serve for dessert. In this example, we start with 6 cookies. If we are selecting 3 winners, the threshold for a winner is 25% of the votes plus 1 vote. This threshold is the minimum number of votes needed to elect all of the seats. If 3 candidates each get more than 25%, it is impossible for another candidate to get enough votes to be elected. Chocolate chip has enough first choices to win and is selected. In fact, it has more votes than needed, which is called a surplus. The surplus votes are then distributed to those voters' second choices. No other cookies have enough votes, so we must eliminate the cookie with the fewest votes. Ginger snaps are in last place, and their voters' ballots transfer to their next choice. Sugar cookies now have enough votes and are elected. Their surplus is transferred to the voters' next preference. That surplus transfer gives Snickerdoodles enough votes to be elected. We now have our dessert selection. Proportional representation helps ensure voters have equal power to elect someone who shares their values. Visit our website at rcvresources.org to learn more about RCV and how it works.
Thank you, Remy. One of the reasons we chose this video is because chocolate chip won. That obviously makes a lot of sense. So next we're going to go to how ranked choice voting works. Taylor, this is really your area of expertise, so I'll defer.
Yes, so for ranked choice voting, this is when voters are going to rank candidates in order of their preference. So with our equipment that we have in Charlottesville, they will be able to make up to 6 rankings for candidates. So we'll have 2 open seats, but up to 6 rankings for all voters. And then the threshold, so the threshold that someone needs to meet is determined by the number of vacancies to declare a winner. So in June of 2025, what we're going to talk about today, the threshold is going to be 33% plus 1 vote that a candidate will have to reach. And the logic behind that, again, like in the video here where they said the 25% plus 1, the 1/3, so 33.3% plus 1 additional vote, is that 2 other candidates would not be able to both get 33.3% plus 1 additional vote to beat the 1. 3 cannot get those amount of votes total. So then that would declare the winner if once 2 people hit that threshold and surplus votes. So if, say, like again in the video, 1 candidate gets 40% of the vote on the initial first round, that extra close to 7% is what would be redistributed as surplus votes. So it will be close to the 7% of all of the ballots that were chosen for the candidate that won in that first round. It'll be 7% of their second choice candidate. So it's not, and the logic behind that is because we can't just choose 7% of the ballots. We can't randomly select, as well as the tabulation software can't randomly select 7% of the ballots to choose from. So it's going to be 7% of their second choice vote is what we'll move forward and to see for the next ranking. And then if that does not give the total number that you need for a second candidate to hit the threshold, that is when it'll be votes are redistributed in a runoff, and ranked choice voting will come into effect, and it'll eliminate the last choice candidate, and it will take their entire second vote. So that's where it differs a little bit in the sense that Surplus is a fraction of it, but the candidate that came in last place, when their votes are distributed, it's their entire second choice vote.
And that's what we saw with the ginger snap in the video we just watched.
Yes. All right. I think I'm good on this.
So, yeah, so I guess we can either keep going or open it up to the council. Any questions about the
here,
how?
before we keep
I will note, this is not the first time, well, this is maybe the first time for me, not the first time for Taylor, but will not be the last time that we're going to be talking about this. When we talk about implementation, we'll talk about what our plan is from a city perspective and from the general registrar getting ready for June and preparing the community to vote in a ranked choice voting election if this is adopted by the city council.
Can you help me remember, we talked about this in the spring. Did we vote on something then, or was that more just an update?
Voted to go ahead with.
Yes, just an update. I think you all did just a short informal vote. It was during the 4:30 session, just kind of getting a feel for how
So
everyone.
this is the for real time?
Yes.
This will be activating, correct?
Okay.
And you get 2 bites at it.
That's right.
Requires 2 readings, so we'll be back.
So one question I had
Yeah.
is, I noticed the video talked about proportional ranked choice voting, but I thought early on, Michael, you had made the point of you would be in favor of a proportional scheme, but this wasn't it.
No, I think I was talking theoretically, the ideal system would be proportional representation in all districts combined with ranked choice voting, and that's just not where we're at. So I wasn't really referring to what we would do locally. I think I may have just gotten my terminology confused, if that makes sense.
That's when I saw the video, and you all sent us the video a week or 2 ago. I was sort of fixated on the notion that somehow there was a difference between what we were doing and proportional ranked choice voting, and maybe that was
No, I was musing about
your comment.
proportional representation in a parliamentary system, which is not relevant for right now.
I mean, I will say, and I've said to a number of people in the last couple of days, first of all, let me just say, when the Charlottesville Democratic Party used ranked choice voting to pick its candidates a couple of times in the last decade or so, I wrote the rules. I'm all in favor of the concept. This is not a concern about the concept of ranked choice voting. My concern is with sort of a nitty-gritty issue. And from what has been explained to me today, what I would have thought was a bug turns out to be a feature. That what I would have thought that the goal would be to allow every person to participate meaningfully in the selection of each one of the nominees, or each one of the nominees in this case. Whereas you told me earlier today that no, actually one of the intended consequences is that if you choose if you're with the winner in the first instance, your influence transferred into the second round of tabulation is really, it may well be quite small. And I would have thought that since we're all nominating 2 people, I would have thought that it would be a bug not to allow everybody to have a meaningful role in the selection of both people. And you're telling me now that, no, that's actually intended, that that's a feature, not a bug.
Correct. And I will also expand on that a little bit. It may be that you only get your first round ranking that's actually counted in total. So for example, if when on election night, our equipment will read the first round results, and that's what will be reported on election night. And it cannot read anything past that, so that's what we have to use the tabulation software for. But on the first round on election night, say if 2 candidates hit 35%, there's no need to do the instant runoff method. So you have your results on election night, so everyone's first round results and first choice is the only ones that are counted.
Yeah, and for whatever it's worth, that wasn't the way we did it 10 years ago, but that's fine.
Yeah, you all did
it. But it affects my sense of what the community experience with it has been. And what you're suggesting is a very different experience from what we did 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, I think what you all did lean more towards single-seat races and how we would operate if it was a single-seat race rather than multi-seat races, and that's where it differs a lot, bringing in the fractional transfer that would not be the case in a single-seat instant runoff race.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding that when we talked about, when we discussed this a few months ago, that it's going to be a significant public education process. And when
Can we go to the next slide, Remy?
And when we go to the public, it's not going to be your role to promote this. I mean, you'll be there to educate, but it's going to be our job. And so we will be there to say this is something that we support as a council and to help with that process, to let the public know that you are the staff behind it, but we're here to support it as well.
Right, and yeah, we've had a lot of conversations about this. It'll definitely be a joint effort from council, city manager's office, communications office, our office in general. We will be at every single event and kind of spearheading how it works and what do you need to know about it. So what do voters need to know, and to make sure that they're prepared when they show up on election day. We cannot answer the why are we doing this? What are the pros versus cons? So that will be on everyone else.
Well, just to follow up on that,
Yes.
I recall a couple of years ago, there was some bill that was passed out of the General Assembly that essentially says nonprofit groups aren't allowed to be involved in education about things like that. Is that still the case?
It
The
is.
League of Women Voters was very upset because they were basically being told you can't do what you used to be doing.
Correct. So that is 24.2-124.1. That is saying that the general registrar, electoral board, or election officials cannot solicit, accept any sort of goods, services, anything when in the operations of conducting an election. So you all could use nonprofit. Our offices cannot. So if you all wanted to work with a third-party organization to put on an event that we could not be a part of, you all could, but my office could not be a part of any of those programs.
And Counselor, we may do that. The communications department here, as you guys know, is very strong, very active, and very capable. So they'll be engaging as much as they can with the registrar in terms of preparing the community, doing events, think town halls, checkpoints at different hours of the day, so we can capture as much of the community as possible, as well as materials out over social media and the other different communication methods that the city has to be able to prepare the community. So we can engage in those partnerships and do what's necessary to make sure folks are ready to go with this election in June.
So the city can partner with Ranked Choice Virginia, League of Women Voters, whoever wants to be helping get the word out.
As far as I'm aware,
But
we
you
can.
can't.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
You and the electoral board.
Correct.
And that's why, as Taylor said, this is going to be a partnership between the two of us.
Yeah, it would be good if we can just get legal confirmation from that, because I do plan to turn this out for some guidance. I want to get down the track and someone says, well, you took a wrong step, months back type of thing. So
We can certainly do that.
thank you.
Do we want to talk about, you already mentioned
Yes.
how if everything is known in the first round, we'll be good to go on election night. Otherwise, it may take
Yes.
several days or a week, but also discuss the
Yes.
tabulation software.
Yeah, so like I was saying, that on election night, our election equipment will give us the first round of results, and then after that, no other rounds of results will come until all ballots have been received by our office and all ballots have been tabulated. So for example, this coming November, it is a lot more chaotic of an election than it hopefully will be next June, so we are expecting to get a lot more influx of ballots. But the earliest we will know what our latest arriving ballots are going to be at a minimum of 7 days after the election, just because we have until the Monday following the election to input all of the same-day registration voter data. So at the earliest for us to tabulate those provisional ballots would be the 7 days following. We are a college town. It is not going to be that 7th day. It is going to be at least 8 or 9, because we're going to have 2,000 to 3,000 provisional ballots to go through. Not a doubt in my mind. It's going to be a very long few days. So just something to keep in mind. It's going to be longer getting results if we do have to go to the additional rounds. It could be 8, 9 days until we have a final count and all the final ballots that have come in. So results are going to look a little bit different. We will have the initial results, but they are very subject to change.
So that means the initial results we'll get the night of will be something like X candidate, 35%, X candidate, 17%, X candidate.
Yes.
You know, whatever, and that's just like the holding placeholder
Correct.
data, and
Yes.
then we'll get the update once everything is counted,
Yes.
and we'll see where things shift.
Yes, absolutely. So, for example, what Arlington did is that they, and that's the only one I have to reference. I actually have talked to the Arlington registrar quite a bit about this. So what they did is they reported everything on election night, and actually the candidate that was the first two, the ones that were in first and second place on election night, it ended up being the candidate that was in first place and then the candidate that was in third place, I believe. But it was not the top two on election night that ended up winning the race. So then by the time all of the results came in, all the candidates came to the office and did it as kind of like an event. They had the news there, everyone to read off the results on that day. But it was I believe 7 days later when they actually came in and were finalized. So just so no one gets worried, it is very subject to change. It most likely will. And then the other major thing that I have is just something to keep in mind. I know I've gone over it both times that I have presented, is the election results. It's just something to keep in mind, the tabulation software that we will use if we do end up going through the instant runoff. So having to go through the ranked choice voting rankings and using the Resource Center tabulation software. Again, it is not certified. It is approved software. Just this past spring, we were at a conference and we had a representative from the Department of Elections that was there and told us that, you know, they actually really want it to be certified as well, and they are really hoping that the legislature will allow them to be able to certify that and put that in code, so that way it does not leave us open to legal challenges. So again, I've brought it up multiple times. It's just something to keep in mind and be aware. It is approved software. It is not certified software.
What's the distinction?
So, for example, all of our voting equipment that we have is required to be certified by the state of Virginia, and it's given a criteria that it has to go through in order to be certified and to be allowed for us to be operated in Virginia. So this is approved. To be completely honest, they haven't given necessarily clear answers on what the difference is between the approval and the certification process, but they're very clear that they are not certifying it. It's not required to be certified. In the code, it is given that any sort of hardware that's attached to software is required to be certified. This is clearly just software, so it is not required to be certified.
I see.
Definitely
But it has
deja
been
vu. We've
approved.
talked about this before.
We have.
right?
We've
Okay.
talked about
Yeah.
this. Yes, I've brought this up multiple
Yeah.
times.
Okay.
And you might, there's some more slides.
Just one that says thank you.
Oh, okay. Yay. Okay, I didn't want to jump ahead, but I just wanted to clarify for general knowledge that in the June primary next year, when this becomes effective, you know, pending our vote, it would just be the city council primary that uses ranked choice voting.
Correct.
And anything else on the ballot would be the standard, more traditional voting that
Correct.
people are familiar
Yes.
with.
Yes, so it will be on the same exact ballot, and it's just going to be in the order by the races. So it'll be the next to the last race on the contest, only with school board following that. And it will just look like a small grid. I think we had a couple slides in here that looked like it. That will be on the same exact face of the ballot, but that will be the only one. That's the only one actually allowed to be ran by ranked choice voting in Virginia.
And the theory is ranked choice voting advocates are starting wherever they can with the hope that it'll expand. I know Alaska and Maine already do ranked choice voting statewide. Jamie Raskin, a congressman from Maryland, has introduced the idea of doing that for all Congress. So there's a movement to expand, but for now, this is the only place where we're allowed to.
Correct. Yes, I know. I want to say every year since this was was approved in 2020. I believe Delegate Hudson may be a better one to ask about this, but I want to say that there's been some sort of legislation that has been brought forward to expand ranked choice voting. It just hasn't fully gone all the way through yet, whether it's to do presidential primaries or to all local elections or opening it up to just boards and councils as well as school boards. So not all constitutionals, but adding school boards in there as well. But none of them have passed at this point.
Thanks.
Other questions or comments at this time? So
I guess just one question is, do you feel confident, so after this, there's also an allocation. Does your office feel confident that will be sufficient to do all the implementation on your end that's necessary?
I believe so, yeah. That's the numbers that we came up with on our initial go-through. So we wanted to make sure we had enough to do a mass mailer to all voters that we'll have in the city of Charlottesville. And so that'll be able to be, whether it's a large postcard mailer, that'll include all of our outreach events that we're going to do and give the links to our websites to say, hey, do you have any questions? Here's where you can find the materials, putting sample ballots and putting the interactive tools to where they can attempt to mark and be ready and prepared for what a ranked choice voting ballot is going to look like. That also gives us the HART upgrades, so our hardware and software that we use for our voting equipment. It gives us that allocation to upgrade that, as well as being able to buy the workstation, so the new computer that we'll use with the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, tabulation software, as well as legal ads and printing ballots. So we currently print our ballots now. We will not be able to once ranked choice voting is implemented. Reason is because, at least in this coming year, this is our largest election year that we have in regards to number of contests, because it is our full state year with our governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, all of our constitutionals, 2 city council seats, and multiple school board seats. So it's our longest ballot we have, and so it'll have to go on legal paper. So that means we will have to purchase rather than being able to print in-house.
And then, so it sounds like in addition to that, the work you all will be doing, there'll be a separate effort that funding would be available for within the city's communications team to do education and outreach, or did I misunderstand that?
You did not misunderstand. However, your optimism about the funding to the communications department is greatly appreciated. There will be a significant effort by the communications department, largely in partnership with Taylor and her team, to make sure that the city is ready. We're not going to begin anything until after the November this year election. So there's still some planning to be done in the background to determine what Afton Schneider and her team need to be able to engage in that partnership, to make sure that we kind of agree on what that strategy is going to look like, what the resources they have, and what might be needed and allocate accordingly.
Yeah, and totally understand kind of on hold until after November, but I definitely feel like we just have to fund all ends of it, because it will obviously be a big change, and we want to reach every potential voter who may turn out to make sure they're not, surprised when they get to the ballot.
Totally agree. And I think the internal perspective is one with optimism that we can do it. It's just kind of putting together that strategy and making it happen, which I'm confident that we will.
Definitely.
Okay. So if there's no other comments, is there agreement to carry the ordinance and the resolution to the September 3rd meeting for second reading and vote, and we can decide whether that's a consent agenda or action item?
I'm fine with that.
I would be fine with consent agenda.
Okay, so I'm fine with that as well. So we'll carry this to the September meeting on the consent agenda, Ms. Thomas. Thank you, guys.
I just wanted to note that there was an error in the 3rd paragraph of the resolution regarding the amount, so that will be updated to match the title.
This one. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
The next item for public hearing is an ordinance to repeal the city code section 18-24 section B and 18-25F pursuant to the Ragged Mountain Reservoir Settlement Agreement. Mr. Hubbard.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I don't have a PowerPoint or a video on this one. Hopefully it'll be a brief item. Again, I am presenting an ordinance to amend the city code to repeal sections 18-24B and 18-25F pursuant to a settlement agreement between the city of Charlottesville and the county of Albemarle. Essentially, in April of 2017, the county sued the city challenging permitted activities at the Ragged Mountain Reservoir. While located in the county, the reservoir is owned by the city and provides water to both localities, to residents and businesses in both localities. The litigation involved determining which recreational activities were permitted at the reservoir. The county sought to prohibit bicycling at the reservoir, while a corresponding provision of the city code permitted bicycling at the reservoir. We went to court. The city circuit court found in favor of the county, so we lost the case, and we appealed this action to the Court of Appeals of Virginia. The two parties then entered into a settlement agreement which ended the litigation on the matter. Actually, City Council approved the settlement agreement back in March. On March 4th, you've approved the settlement agreement. City Manager Sanders signed it on March 7th, and the county executive signed it on March 11th. So pursuant to this agreement, I'm here before you to ask that you repeal Sections 18-24B and Section 18-25F of the City Code. This is Chapter 18 of the City Code. Basically, all that does is it removes the provisions in the City Code which allow bicycling at the reservoir.
We're just kind of cleaning things up from what we did.
It was the next action. We knew that there would be that to be done. Yeah.
Correct.
Before, are you finished?
I'm finished. If you have any other questions.
Yes, before I open up the public hearing, I just want to see if there's clarifications or questions from council.
Yeah, so I guess this wouldn't, I have no idea if they intend to do this in any way, but let's say the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors was interested in taking a vote to allow bicycling at the Ragged Mountain Reservoir. This wouldn't prohibit them from doing that, right? This just it's their decision.
No, essentially, their regulations were in place before our regulations were in place, and that's why their regulation won. It's essentially an oversimplification of the legal argument. And so if they decided later on that they wanted to then permit bicycling, they could do so.
Right, but it'll be their decision.
Correct.
And so if people are pro-bicycling at the reservoir advocates, they should direct their communications to the Board of Supervisors.
Sure, that's correct.
Other questions or comments from council?
I just want to say that I appreciate all the work that it took to get this cleaned up. When we came on council, it was remarkable how many of these things that were just hanging out there that I know that there's some substance. I'm not trying to minimize how people feel about bike riding at the reservoir, but it was clearly this just log jam and impasse that was not going to get resolved, and so we just had these hanging legal matters, and so I appreciate all the work everyone has done, and I know it has been, and I think that maintaining a strong, we don't always agree with the county, but maintaining a strong, proactive working relationship with them is just super important, and so I think this supports that.
Yep. I'll now open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to, Sally?
Thank you all so much for the fruitful discussion, and also an extra thank you to city staff for your thoughtful preparation. I just wanted to follow up on a handful of loose ends that came up in the conversation about ranked choice.
No, this is a public hearing on the
Oh, I'm so sorry.
zone.
Oh, we have a lot of biking to talk about.
I'm sorry. So this is a public hearing for the, yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Annette Dusenberry. I've been a resident at 816 Rougemont Avenue for 20 years. I come before you as a trail user and also a member of the board of the Charlottesville Area Mountain Bike Club. Tonight, you all are discussing the repeal of the 2 sections of the code at Ragged Mountain Reservoir. I completely understand that this change is obligatory based on the recent decisions to end the lawsuit between the city and the county. I know there is no new language being added this evening. However, many of you may be aware that the county is currently considering revising their code. We can all agree there is a unique partnership required between the city and county for Ragged. As it is my understanding, the city ordinance must not conflict with activities permitted by the county RWSA concerning the water supply. And I ask the city to consider adding language, if it is needed, that would allow any activities permitted by the county and RWSA at Ragged Mountain. A statement such as this would prevent any continued lengthy process when and if an ordinance by the county is ever changed in the future. I was an active part of the city meetings 8 years ago with the public that took place over the shared use at Ragged. The collaboration that I saw during those meetings and the plans that were brought forward restored my personal faith in the government process. All types of users sat together across the table from one another and worked on a plan that would address all the issues brought forward. Sadly, that master plan that was made for a shared loop combined with hiker-only trails was not able to be brought to fruition due to the resulting lawsuit. During years of waiting, the area was shared by all users, including cyclists and trail runners, with no reports of user conflict brought forward to City Parks and Rec. I know I don't fit the stereotypical mountain bike image, but please hear me when I say the diversity of trail users has changed immensely. And there is a huge component of women, families, and children who all enjoy this way of getting out into nature, and Ragged is a favorite place for them. Having shared access for all users to this special place was and still is important to so many in this community. In summary, I hope that the city can work together with the county to eliminate future issues around the reservoir. In terms of language, Carvin's Cove, which uses the exact same Virginia State Code as we do here regarding reservoirs, has set the precedent that shared use, including cycling, is supported. I ask for the city to add language, if needed, to the current ordinance to allow for seamless coordination with the county's ordinance. I also kindly ask the city to consider going a step further and petition the county to change their outdated code to allow shared use. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to speak on this? Dee Dee?
Good evening, Dee Dee Smith. I really appreciate that you're taking this move. I was on the other side, and I speak for the environmentalists. And as a longtime both resident and user, actually I was quite instrumental in creating Ragged Mountain Natural Area back in 1999 as a natural area for the protection of our water source. And I think Mr. Pinkston and Mr. Sanders can tell you there are increasing threats to our water supply, including PFAS, if you haven't kept up with that. Ragged Mountain is distinctive in that it has an extremely small watershed. It was 2 square miles before the inundation that we see today, which is really, really small. If you don't know what 2 square miles means, South Fork is 267 square miles, and everything that happens on that land goes into that water, and it's going to be raised again, and which means that watershed's going to be even smaller. So we have to be really, really careful about what we put on that land, because it will end up into, by far, the only really big source of water we have in case of drought. So I support this. I know you don't actually have a lot of choice. If it were me and sitting up there, I would request, or I'm requesting of you, that not only take it off your allowed use, but put it on the prohibited. I think it would be a real nod to the Board of Supervisors, actually, to do that, because it's been such an issue for so long. I think it needs to be really clear to the bikers out there that they can use the 50 other parks, but this one and Ivy Creek are the only 2 reserved for just walkers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this? If not, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion or further discussion first from council?
Is this just one reading?
Seems like just one.
Yeah.
It was
You can-
listed without 1 or 2, but because it is a general ordinance, it would require 2, unless council decides to vote with a 4/5 vote after the public hearing.
I would say we just do 2 readings. I mean, I think there are some things to possibly consider between now and an intervening second vote.
Okay,
We
so
waited this long.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just cleaning up the language.
But-
And it doesn't expressly prohibit anything. It just removes the language that currently.
It doesn't prohibit
lists.
anything that isn't already prohibited.
For us, from our
Right, I
perspective.
mean, it's not
That's
adding
right.
language for
Right.
prohibition, it's just removing language that currently discusses.
Right, so the first statute or the first code section is a list of permitted, or prohibited activities, I'm sorry. And so that one, I think bike riding is going to be slashed out of that one. And then the second is a list of permitted activities, and I think horseback riding is permitted, and that one is slashed out. Something along those lines. So you have a list of permitted and then prohibited activities, or vice versa, and we're just slashing out the one line that says You know, bicycling is permitted, horseback riding is not permitted. That's essentially it.
So that the two bodies are not in conflict by code.
To the point that this lady made a minute ago, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, ma'am, about having some sort of alignment with the county or like, sort of laying the groundwork for some future collaboration. Do you feel like there's anything we should proactively put in the ordinance to facilitate that? Or is that just something if we need to come back 6 months or a year from now and modify the code again based off there?
Sure. I'll say that this is the alignment that we were able to navigate.
Okay.
This is why we're here. Being able to pick up an item that I use the word stuck. I've used the word stuck too many times on things that I've picked up since I've been here. It was a series of conversations that really led to, is there any real opportunity for us? We could have continued to fight in court, but there was no good opinion that we were going to get anywhere except another series of successive losses possibly. So ideally, it was just a matter of just figuring out what was the most prudent thing for us to do to then be able to move forward. And in continuing our relationship with the county, this will be something we'll talk about as we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like this language makes it pretty clear, and it does give us
Exactly.
a platform on which we can continue to work with the county on figuring out what is the best use for that land.
And as Ms. Smith pointed out, I mean, we're talking about the watershed around all of our water bodies, and it's just one of those things that we can't lose sight of.
Yeah.
And in our current still drought status, we're still thinking about it, we're still worrying about it, and that in itself means that we will continue to be talking about it.
Yeah. And it's something, if the county changes, then we could modify in 2 meetings, one
Right.
hearing, then we can change it. Okay. So this will be an action item on the September, or did we decide to, no, we decided to
September
make
3rd. Yeah,
make
you're
this
just
an
moving
action
forward.
item on the September 3rd meeting.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about which
Action item or
place it should
consent
be.
agenda, Michael? Do you care?
I'm fine with consent agenda. I mean, I don't feel too strongly about it. I just wondered if there's any value in us giving kind of a nod to the county, but in thinking about it, I know their own board has differing opinions, and it's their decision to make, so,
I'm happy either way.
Okay, consent
I
agenda.
don't think more conversation's going to change this particular thing, but more conversation could happen after about what that usage is for.
So we'll make it a consent agenda, Ms. Thomas. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have a written report. This is the last time for public matters. Sally?
Well,
Oh,
I just, very quickly, I just wanted to highlight the written report from the Land Use and Environmental Planning Committee was a 3-page written report, which is the only information we get about UVA's planning efforts. I know they've done some significant land purchases, and I just always like to remind the public that this is a body which is no longer open to the media or even city councilors. And to my knowledge, there is no public body that discusses UVA's land use and development plans, which is very concerning. But that's it. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Wade, and I apologize for jumping the gun earlier. I was just hoping to speak to 3 lingering questions that came up in the discussion. The first came from Councilor Ostrand about what's the current status of the General Assembly toward further expanding ranked choice voting, a bill that would have extended it to all local offices, so constitutionals and school board, passed the Senate last year and then was narrowed in the House with the goal of trying to meet the governor's approval. That bill got to the governor's desk and was vetoed. So I think this governor has not shown that he's particularly interested in expanding ranked choice voting, so the next action we might see could be under a new administration in 2026. As Mr. Hubbard highlighted, there is currently a sunset date on the bill, so there's about a 5-year window for the General Assembly to act again if they wanted to do that. The second piece has to do with one of Mayor Snook's questions, which was the mayor forever. Once a mayor, always a mayor.
Yeah.
Former Mayor Snook's, some question about the collaboration between nonprofits in the city. By way of background, during the height of COVID, the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation nationally injected a lot of money into a lot of election and administration departments to try to help them conduct elections during COVID. That was seen potentially as tilting the outcome of elections by some people, and so there were legislatures across the country that rushed to ban nonprofit funding of election administration, and it has created this potential confusion about well-meaning collaboration between nonprofits and city officials. Thus far, the opinion of the Virginia Attorney General is that city registrars are being overly cautious in interpreting that statute as to mean that they can't even attend events that are held in collaboration with nonprofits. And back in last summer, July of 2023, the county, Albemarle County, sought a formal AG's opinion about that. And I'm going to read to you the conclusion. Attorney General Miyares, so our current AG, views that accordingly the statute does not prohibit a general registrar from speaking about voting or voter registration at a meeting of a private nonprofit and nonpartisan civic organization, as long as there's not an actual transfer of funds. And so I bring this up just to say that I think that this is an area of some murkiness as Virginia officials figure that out. And we, as Ranked Choice Virginia, are eager to work with county staff or city staff and council to figure out what this would mean. Practically speaking, we've secured counsel from the fine folks across the street at Flora Pettit just to make sure we're doing this all professionally with all of the super smart attorneys. So we'll keep working together on that. And the last piece that I would try to squeeze in 20 seconds is just to Mayor Snook's question about proportional representation. I think it helps to remember that the goal of proportional representation is to make the collection of counselors match the collection of people who live in the city. And so that's why if one slice of the electorate gets one of the seats, it's believed that the other slice of the electorate should get another slice of the seats. There's more to come there.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? There being no other actions, we stand adjourned. Thank you.